We're going to use the tracker software to analyze video. I'm going to give you an example of what kind of things Tracker can do to help us, and then you will be able to use it in the future. So the first thing we want to do is upload our video. So I'm going to hit this button here, and I'll search for it, and I have the video stored on my desktop, and you will have access to the video off of the Google Drive. This screen will come up. We will just go ahead and click this, and our video will upload. Once we get the video in there, you're going to see it's the same video that I have uploaded to YouTube. There were 4 people kicking. I'm going to just pick one of those people and show you some of the things that will help you get some answers. So you'll see that the video is here, and it will play, and it plays in slow motion. What I want to do is fast forward to one of the kickers. There's Mr. Verway, hello. Mr. Langle, Mr. DJ, and of course myself. I'm going to go ahead and look at Mr. Langle's kick. So you can see that we have the football, we have the box in the background. Each one of these stripes are 10 centimeters, so that will help us when we calibrate here in just a second. What I want to do first is go ahead and get an X and a Y axis on the video. So I'm going to click this button right here, and you'll see that it comes up with an X and Y axis. If you right click on it, you can change the color of it, and I'm just going to change it to a little bit of a lighter color so that you can see it a little better. And then I'm going to drag it to the center of the football. Alright, that looks pretty good. And something else that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure that the X and Y axis are level with the camera. You can see based on this box, and the box is what I'm going to use to level it out. It's not exactly level, so if I try to get it to run parallel to the top of that box, that will help us when we're getting angles and things here in just a minute. And that looks to be pretty level with the box, that is. Next thing I'm going to do is get an idea of how big or how long each of these units are on the screen. And the way I'm going to do that is click this tool here, the calibration tool. And I'm going to click new, and I want to click Calibration Stick. And what that's going to do is bring up this little guy here, and I'm going to change his color so that you can see him a little better. How about yellow-ish? Alright, here is our stick, and we want to match it up with something in the screen that we know the length of. And the one thing that we do, Mr. Verway was nice enough to provide you with a box with measurements on it, and I know that from this left side of the box to this mark here, it is 40 centimeters. And I'm going to make sure that it runs parallel with the top of the box. So once I have it marked or matched up to the length, then I want to tell the distance of it, and I'm just going to type 40. And now I will move it out of the way, and now it knows, the program knows what that length is for your video. Okay, next thing we want to do is fix a starting point for the video. If you're clicking in the bottom right down here, you can move very, very slow. Every time I click, it moves 1 frame. Now this may match up perfectly with the contact with the football, and it may not, but we can do some things to help that here very soon. So I'm just going to get it close to when Mr. Langle makes his kick. and contact. And you can see that the ball has started moving, so that's not necessarily time 0. And if I go back one frame, this is before we have contact with the ball. So that is also not time 0. Time 0 is somewhere in between. So we're going to deal with that right now. In the bottom left, you'll see this red number. Right now it's set on frames. So we're in the 2071st frame of the video. And if I click forward, it will go to 72. And you can see that. If I click on that number and bring up the display and click on time, now we have our time in the video. If I click forward, you can see that it goes one more frame and the time also changes. What I'm going to do is, first, I'm going to set this time here by clicking on the time. I'm going to set it to 0. Now this is what I have right now set at time 0, and we know that contact has yet to be made with the football itself. So I know it's not time 0, it's a little before that. If I go forward some, just one frame, this should be just barely after time 0. This is just barely after contact with the ball. So I know that 0.033 is a little too far in the video. So what I'm going to do is click on that number and I'm going to hit set time. Now we know that it's just barely after 0, but it's not quite to 0.033. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it 0.015. I'm going to say that it's just halfway to that 0.033. Alright, so now you can see that this frame, my time is 0.015, just what I set it to. And if I hit back, this is before contact is made with the football, and you can see that my time is negative 0.018. So that will give us some good time values now for us to deal with it. And it's very accurate compared to some of the other timing things that we've been dealing with this semester. Now, one other thing that we can do with this is measure an angle that something is, well, in this case, kicked with. You can see that the ball takes off as I move on through the frames. The frames, if I reverse back to our kick, I'm going to go ahead and put in a, click on track, new, and then go down to measuring tools. And I can see that there is a protractor which will help us measure angles at which things are kicked in this case. Now I can see that it is green, which is difficult to see, so I'm going to right click and change the color. Let's go with this color here, and now you can see it a little better. At the end of each of these vectors you can change the length, you can change where they're positioned. What I'm going to do is place this at the center of the golf ball, and if you want to get a little more accurate, you can just move somewhere on the picture and right click and hit zoom in, and you can drag it to wherever you wish. I'm going to zoom in a couple of times just so we can get this to be pretty accurate. Alright, and what I want to do is establish a ground or a level spot for this angle. So I'm going to put our bottom angle or vector right on the x-axis that I've created. And now this top one is going to actually measure our angle. You can see right over here it gives us the degrees from this vector to this vector. As we increase, you can see we get towards 90 or a right angle. If we go past it over here, they become greater than 90 and so on. But what I want to do, as I zoom back out a little bit, what I want to do is find out the angle at which this kicked or this football was kicked. Mr. Langle is a great kicker, as you can see, and I want to know the angle at which he kicked it with. So moving forward, I'm just going to go, let's say, to about right here. And I'm going to drag this angle and put it at the center of the football again. And if you want to, we can zoom in and make sure we're pretty accurate. All right, and what we can see is that our angle that this football was kicked with is 10.9 degrees. That could help us calculate things in the future. So we have the angle from this vector to the top vector is 10.9 degrees. Something else we can do, other than find angles, find specific time values. You can see that at this frame, our time is 0.048. And if I click back on that time, I can go back to display frames. This is frame 2073. I'm going to go back to the time. Something else we can do is measure distances. And the way the program does it is it's all based off of this measurement here that we set earlier on in the video. So knowing that that distance up here was 40 centimeters, now we can get a good estimate of distance in the video. So you can see when I put the cursor over the angle, this vector, it gives us a length. It's 114.9, and that is, and if I get it perfect here, 114.4, and that would be measured in centimeters since that's what I set our original calibration stick with. So that is one way to measure. Another way to measure is we can take a look and measure. If I go to tracks and I go to new and down to measuring tools, if I click on tape measure, it's going to bring up our tape measure, and here it is dancing around. It's red. I'm going to make it a color that's a little easier to see. How about this crazy lime green? Alright, now we can see it, and you can measure anything in this video. For example, if I want to measure the length of the football, and Mr. Verwey has this football, so we could actually see how accurate this is, and I want to zoom in a little. Let's make sure we get it right on the ends. It looks like it's about 44.18 centimeters, which is pretty cool. One thing you need to be careful of when you're measuring things is they need to be as close to what we used to calibrate in the first place, which was this box. You can tell that as I measure things that are further away, like it's very obvious this light pole is a little more than 66.08 centimeters. So as we get further away from things that we calibrated with, it's not going to make much sense. So when you're using this program, make sure that you're actually using things right here around the actual where we calibrated. We could measure Mr. Langle's shoe. I don't know how long Mr. Langle's shoe is, but I would guess based on our program that it's somewhere around 41 centimeters, which is pretty cool. So maybe something that we're going to want to do to help us answer questions is measure a length of the football, or the length the football is traveled in a specific amount of time. We know it started at this start point. If I frame back, that start point, and it traveled a couple frames later to this place, 114.2 centimeters, and you would be able to calculate the time that it took it to travel that far. So you may be able to, knowing a distance and a time, you may be able to use that information to help you out in the future. This program is one that is very useful. I think you need to be careful about the the accuracy of it, and knowing that there could be some error, and knowing that we measure things very close to what we use to calibrate, I think it will help you get a great idea of what's actually happening in a video. I hope this helped with Tracker and getting some angle measures and distances and times from a video.